It feels as if we are decades removed from times like these, when poll taxes, literacy tests, and intimidation were used to turn voters away from the polls because of their skin color. Yet the reality remains that decades after the Voting Rights Act of 1965 sought to assure that all eligible Americans had access to the polls, many citizens continue to face real obstacles in exercising the civil and human right to vote. All over the country, voters encounter barriers on Election Day. Some districts lack the funding or oversight to run a seamless and efficient process. Voters may have been mistakenly purged from the rolls, or polling places may be consolidated, resulting in longer trips to the polls and longer lines when voters get there. But anyone can face trouble trying to vote.
For some reason, these scanners is breaking down. Okay, they're breaking down.
It's probably been over an hour, I'd say. So it's been a little bit slow. I didn't expect the line to be so long.
Polling places that must be moved at the last minute, voting rolls that are incorrect or incomplete, shortages of paper ballots when machines break down, polling places that are inaccessible to people with disabilities.
Running an election is really hard, and mistakes are going to happen. They always happen. And when everyone shares the same goal of making our democracy work well, things usually turn out all right in the end. But in recent years, some states have passed laws that seem designed to make it harder for eligible citizens to register and vote. Some states have passed voter ID laws and documentary proof of citizenship requirements. Others have purged voters from the rolls in violation of federal law. These kinds of measures fall hardest on low-income and minority voters. The same people who used to be barred from voting are now running obstacle courses to get to the polls.
Sometimes deceptive practices take the form of flyers giving false information to voters about the time and place of elections. We've seen billboards that falsely warn people that if they have committed crimes, including traffic violations, they may be arrested if they try to vote. Election protection is a nonpartisan project of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under Law. Its volunteers field tens of thousands of inquiries and complaints during major federal and state elections, and volunteer field representatives monitor polling places for compliance with the election laws.
The Election Protection Program provides a very critical and important resource for the electorate, helping to make sure that people have all of the basic information and tools that they need to participate in our electoral process.
Through the center, our attorneys work on a wide range of issues: housing, children's rights, education, immigration. But voting rights are central to the functioning of our democracy. We are so proud to continue our support of election protection in this effort.
If people can't get to the polls, or they're discouraged from going to the polls, or they're told to go to the wrong polling place, you defeat the very purpose of having a democracy, and it undermines citizenship. Unfortunately, we've had a dark history, but even in our modern times, our enlightened times, there are still many efforts to prevent people from voting. And election protection is a number they can call to get the truth, and we get them to the polls.
The call center has 20 stations with volunteers sitting at each station. And if they can answer the question directly, they do. If it's a question that's going to affect more voters, their next line is the captains who are standing in that room to help the volunteers respond to questions. If it's a bigger issue than that, of which there have been many this morning, they elevate the call to the command center, where we deal with elections officials to solve the problems in real time.
Working with the Lawyers Committee, Lowenstein Sandler served as one of the National Voter Hotline Centers for Election Protection during the 2016 primaries and general election. But it's not the first time the firm has been involved. When Hurricane Sandy struck New Jersey and New York in 2012, just days before the presidential election, polling places were destroyed, communications were disrupted, and communities were dealing with an overwhelming disaster.
I'm in the marina business. We have a home in Manahawkin that's been destroyed, but I also thought it was very important. Today's election day, and I wanted to vote under any set of circumstances.
This is something that everyone fought for, especially for women to be able to vote, and I want my daughter to see that it's important.
Amid all this, people still wanted and needed to vote. The firm's toll-free election protection hotline fielded calls from voters needing guidance on where and how to vote amid the destruction.
Running the hotline in the aftermath of the hurricane was an extremely intense experience, and that really committed the firm to continuing with the process of assisting voters because it was so obvious how important it was. Every time we participate in election protection, we're inspired by voters' determination to cast their ballots and be heard. We at the Lowenstein Center for the Public Interest and at the firm in general are proud to stand with these voters when they jump hurdles on the way to the polls.